Hey, Mike Levin of Inwood here on Saturday, August 22nd, around 7:40 p.m. Walking the dog and spent a pretty solid day coding, working through the last nuanced bit of requirements in the Pipulate product to fill in some big holes that I did not ever properly fill in on past systems. And that's the ability to run, shall we call them, setup macros. Pipulate and its predecessors have always been able to take an instruction to run a job and run it. It never before had scheduling. I've now added that to the latest rendition of my system, Pipulate. Pipulate has scheduling, but scheduling just bam, runs off that job. The question marks have to be set up right, or the asterisks in the case of trending. And you need to know how to create that original spreadsheet. You need to know what columns you need, how to name them, any dependencies that exist, having a URL column for certain other columns that need to do lookups, and most importantly of all, if you have a series of tabs, each of which has an interesting Pipulate process and perhaps a different scheduling frequency, and different things it's doing, like perhaps one is log file style and it grows longer by one row every day or every week, and then another tab is very like collapsed log file, like a roll-up or an aggregate or a pivot table report, where you get counters mostly. So for each KPI you're tracking, you get a count. An example would be something like follower count. But then the idea is, since you're giving up all that log file goodness, you don't have an idea of history. So what you do is you make a row that has a few columns on it for date created, date modified, modify count. So you'll know, for example, the number of times that item has been modified, the last time it was modified, and then you can make time windows so that the counter can't go up, say, more than once per day. So you know, if that counter is up to like 30 and it's like times people used Pipulate, for example, you would know that 30 means 30 true days. And that's really valuable information in a much more efficient fashion than pure log file style, which fills up quickly. And so I'm going to encourage the use of that summarized format. And so some tabs may be log file, some tabs might use that summarized format, and then other tabs might just be reminders to make sure that every month you did something off of a checklist. So that means you might need to Pipulate against 3 different target tabs, and the time frequencies for the updates might be different. One might be daily, one might be weekly, one might be monthly, for example. And so I need that way for jobs to be defined, that every time that scheduled operation comes up, here are the things to do on this document in Google Spreadsheets. And I need a way to set those jobs up initially. Usually one document, one set of tabs for one client, for example. So you need the setup process, and then you need to easily throw anything into scheduling mode that needs to be scheduled. Perhaps inviting that document, inviting the Pipulate administrator into that document so that the server has the login rights to hit that document, update it on that scheduled basis, running on a Linux cron hourly job basis. So even if your job is to run daily, it's going to come in at 24 times throughout the day to try and make sure it gets done. So even if there's API availability problems, it's always going to get your daily counters done, unless the API is like down all day or you ran out of quota or something like that. So that's where we're at right now. I designed a, shall we call it a language, so that you can pass it into the generator, and so within the Pipulate generator it spins through the jobs and it says make table, okay, make table, pre-populate it this way, copy question marks down, put asterisks here or there, and do it do it again for another tab, and do it again for another tab, and then if necessary simulate a click on replace question mark, so that it actually processes it and has one complete job both set up and run for the first time. And that's the work I'm working through today, and it's going really well, and I had a nice breakthrough before I came out to walk the dog, namely reporting output in the streaming PipStream interface. So Pipulate has a streaming UI that streams right as it's building the form. So in other words, it builds the form, but since jobs have already begun, like API lookups and stuff, it never stops building the form. But instead of form building, it's now sending things like AJAX communication to add lines and to send messages through channels. I have 4 different communication channels sort of being streamed out to the web browser that I can have the JavaScript respond to any way I like. So there are wonderful issues I'm working through, not merely with Python and Python coding, but with JavaScript and SVG. And I just did like the Pipulate swoosh arrow in the logo as an alpha transparency SVG, and it's very slick, and I can use it at any size, at any transparency. So I put it faintly in the back at like mostly transparent on the PipStream interface, and I think it adds a really classy touch. So anyway, I'm doing kind of a Hail Mary play to get the last little bits done, because at the end of the day, no, not the end, by the middle of the day tomorrow, I need to leave for the Catskills to pick up the family. I'll be spending the second half of the day with them, maybe barbecuing or something. And so I am going to try and wrap up all this coding stuff as early as I can. Guy back there walked right up to me with his dog. Ugh, I hate that. Anyway, I will be wrapping that up as fast as I can, hopefully tonight, might be late into the night. I've been staying up till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning on this stuff, but it's really productive stints, and Rachel was kind enough to give me this time to focus like this, so I'm going to focus as hard as I can, get it done tonight, leaves tomorrow for some around the house stuff I want to do before I leave, and then I leave, you know, on the earlier side, like 3 o'clock for the Catskills. I'm there, I have dinner with them, have a great time, see everybody, and then leave to come back home at like 8 or 9 o'clock, and that'll be a great couple of days. Good weekend. Thank you for giving me that. This is really working out well, and thanks for joining me. Thanks for letting me bend your ear for almost close to 10 minutes on this one. And sorry about this guy here. He just rises to any challenge, no matter how small. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.